guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. Today we've got a little bit of a different video. We're going to do a season review for the 2021-2022 season for Sheffield Wednesday. A lot happened this year, so there's a lot to unpack, and we're just going to go ahead and have a little chat about it and think about what kind of things we can do next season, where I think the club will go, signings, contracts, those kind of things, and just overall have a general general conversation and chat. Really, I want to interest in your thoughts of this season, what we can do next season. Obviously after the recent playoff heartbreak against Sunderland, the final yet to be played, so that could go either way. I'm hoping for a Wycombe win though. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Now, if you look on the surface of it, 85 points from 46 games is certainly not a bad record. 78 goals scored as well, and finishing fourth in the league is certainly not a bad return for your first season in League One after the complete shambles that the club was in this time last year, with players out of contract, players not being played, an ageing squad, those kind of things. Really unsure of where the squad would go. I personally predicted a top 8 finish this season. I thought somewhere in the top 8, maybe 7th or 6th was probably my gut sort of feeling, but I thought top 8 is a pretty safe bet. And to finish 4th, certainly sort of just about outreaches my expectations of what I thought of this club, and we've somewhat overachieved, I think, in some ways. I think if you look at how the club was this time last year, then I'd say finishing 4th and next year is definitely an overachievement. But if you then consider the transfer window that we had, the players that we brought in, some of the players that we kept, the likes of Barry Bannon, and the players that we've brought in, obviously, Lee Gregory, Jack Hunt, George Byers, those kind of players, I think we've sort of definitely underachieved in some sense. And I think the reason for that being our slow start to this season after the initial 4 games where I think we won 3, drew 1 and didn't concede in the first 4 games. After that, we were really sort of struggling. I know we lost to Morecambe on the 5th game of the season, I think, and I thought that was a bit of a turning point for the next few games. We played kind of okay that game, but at the end of the day, you don't want to lose to Morecambe, a club that I think have been relegated. So yeah, it all started from there. When they lost to Plymouth, then we drew to Shrewsbury, then we lost to Oxford, those kind of things. And by the time it came to like November, we were sort of around the mid-tables, sort of 9th, 10th, which for a club like Wednesday shouldn't be anywhere near where we want to be in League One. And big questions were asked of Darren Moore, rightfully so, because, like I said, the club should not be flirting around mid-table by November. Obviously, a big factor that played into that was injuries. We had a lot of injuries. We ended up having to play Marvin Johnson at centre-back. Patterson played at centre-back and midfield for a while. The only really one consistent player that was never injured, I thought, was Barry Bannon, and maybe Peacock Farrell as well. And I think a lot of credit needs to go to Bannon for the amount of games that he plays. He's 32. He's the second oldest member of the squad, and he never has to be rested because he can't play 2 games in a week, those kind of things. And he runs out of some of the most in the squad as well. So I think there's certainly a lot of credit that needs to be given for Bannon for that. And Peacock Farrell as well played every game, every minute of every game, other than an international call-up, which meant we had to play Joe Wildsmith. But overall, I think the injuries really didn't help. Some people argue that they helped in Darren Moore finding his best team, which I kind of agree, but playing Marvin Johnson at centre-back is never, ever going to help a team. You know what I mean? Like, I like Johnson, and I think he's certainly, him and Byers, for me, have been the players that have developed the best this season. But, you know, he shouldn't be playing at centre-back. He's not a centre-back. Same with Callum Patterson. So I think it was more of a hindrance than a helping. I think Darren Moore doesn't get enough credit for that. I think he rode out that time with the lack of defenders kind of well. I mean, like I said, we were around 9th or 10th, which on the face of it is awful. But if you consider the injuries that we did have, having to play a winger at centre-half, perhaps it wasn't the worst. I mean, I've still got big questions over Darren Moore personally. I think his in-game tactics have proven to let us down this season, no more so than that Sunderland game at home. I thought Alex Neil out-tactics Darren Moore. I think Darren Moore's biggest strong suit is his recruitment. Marvin Johnson, George Byers, Lee Gregory, Jordan Storey, players like that. Jack Hunt, I mean, I know Jack Hunt played for us before, but he still brought him in. Those kind of players are players that really sort of, players that you wouldn't expect. They're a little bit somewhat left field, I think. Players that we weren't really linked with before. And for him to bring them in and most of them be a success, I think proved that Darren Moore does have something about him and has got enough about him for me to take us on to next season. I said I sort of tweeted after that Portsmouth game that no matter what happens in this playoffs, we could get battered against Sunderland. Darren Moore deserves another year, at least another transfer window, because you can't really finish fourth, winning 24 games in a season, amassing like your second or third highest points total ever, and get sacked. That seems a bit harsh. Now, like I said, I'm not Darren Moore's biggest fan. I don't dislike him. I don't particularly like him as a manager, as a tactician. I don't think that he's as good as we could get. But if he gets us promoted next season, then who am I to say who we should get? You know, Chancery's certainly got a big call to make in that regard. But then obviously sort of November, December came along. We picked up form a little bit. I remember that 3-0 home win against Sunderland. I'm assuming other people remember that as well. I seem to feel like that was a bit of a turning point for the season as a whole. That 3-0 win. I think, who was it? Canberra, Lee Gregory and Corbeanu scored. And then after that we went on a little bit of a run. And I think we were sort of up into sort of 7th or 8th after another few games. Then we dropped off again. And then like that 5-0 battering against Sunderland, which I've almost sketched out of my brain. And then after that, sort of we got to around about December, and again it was looking like just outside the playoffs. We'd need a bit of a push for playoffs, which, considering how some of our signings went and some of our fans thought, it's as if it was the end of the world. But Darren Moore, to be fair to him, stayed calm, stayed true to what he believed, and I think we changed our style a little bit, changed our style of football. He stopped playing that 4-3, was it 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1? Either way, that just did not work with the squad we had. And he stopped playing with that, stuck with the 3-5-2, which is our best formation. And since then, we've kind of not looked back. I seem to think come January that there was a big sort of change, a big mood change, and playing Bannon further forward really helped, getting more goals, getting more assists. Was it 9 goals, 12 assists I think he got this season? Definitely his best return, probably the best return of a midfielder we've had for a long, long time. Certainly that I can remember. Yeah, very, very, very good from him. And the squad in general sort of uplifted a little bit come January, February. Likes of George Byers, Marvin Johnson played better. Lee Gregory came back from injury and hit form at the right time. Berahino hit a little bit of forms, obviously scored that hat-trick. Luongo was fit. He was playing a lot of games of football. And overall, I think the squad is sort of coming together and realising that, shit, you know, we've got to push on, because if we don't make playoffs this season, it's been a massive disappointment. Then we sort of come towards the end of the season, around the March, April, May time, where form was pretty decent. I know there's a couple of results that we weren't too impressed with. Obviously, that Wickham loss was a big blow, but then we beat MK Dons on the road. We beat Fleetwood on the road, which is obviously a game that I went to. We beat Portsmouth last day of the season, so there were some good results in there as well. It wasn't all bad, and we ended up finishing 4th, which I thought, first season back, Darren Moore, 24 wins from 46 games, not a bad record. 78 goals scored, which is our most, certainly since probably last time we were in League One was probably the last time we scored more goals than that in a season. It's been a good year for stats. I think if you look at it just purely on a statistical basis, second highest or third highest points total ever, most goals scored for at least 10 years, finishing 4th, 24 wins, those kind of things. There's certainly a lot of positives to take from that, from a season that I wasn't filled with dread, but I sort of thought we could really be in mid-table here quite easily, with some of the players that we had, the likes of Adam Reach and players like that who are not really cut out for us, and the squad that we have. You can have an Adam Reach if the rest of your squad is a Manchester City. You can have that one player that's not working as hard if the rest are. But we had players like Adam Reach, players like Forestieri, you know, those kind of guys, that Kadeem Harris, that just weren't trying. And we had too many of them, and I was worried coming into this season that we'd have that again. A bunch of players that had all this supposed talent, but showed it 1 out of 5 games. But no, to be fair to them, we signed some workhorses, and it works, I think, most of all. So the signing for me that summarises our season the most is probably a signing like Lee Gregory for me. Absolutely fantastic Lee Gregory this season. 17 goals. Our highest goals total from a single player since Gary Medine, 2011-12, we got 18. And he was injured for like the second half of that season as well, Gary Medine, I remember that. But overall, I think Lee Gregory is probably the signing of the season. played really, really well. Certainly when he came back from injury, I think, 8 goals in 9 games at the end of the season, which is a record that any striker could be proud of. His work off the ball is fantastic. His work on the ball is fantastic. His hold-up play is brilliant. He's a clever player. He's a decent finisher. Some chances I think maybe he should perhaps be scoring that, certainly in the 12-yard box. A few chances this season where I thought maybe if he was a little bit more clinical, could have got 20 this season, but 17 is not too bad. So yeah, players like Lee Gregory played well, and then as well I was pleased with George Byers, probably also second sign of the season. And yeah, we were sort of hitting form around that early parts of the calendar year, and then we got to March, April, and then the form was okay. And then we obviously beat Portsmouth on the last day of the season 4-1 to get to the playoffs against Sunderland, which, I mean, is a difficult one. The away leg, we got battered, in all truth. We really didn't deserve anything from that away game. Didn't really deserve to win the home leg either. I'd say we edged it, but you know, it is what it is. The defending on that game was an absolute mess, and certainly a bit of a defensive rejig I think is needed. I'd sign up Harley Dean on a permanent transfer, and I'd extend Sam Hutchinson's contract, but with Jordan Story going back to Preston, I'd definitely look to bring in another centre-back. Fingers crossed, a permanent as well. I always prefer players that are ours. I don't know, it's just always the way I've sort of felt about loan players. I've never really liked having loan players. I know it's in the lower divisions it's kind of needed, and that sort of idea of a rolling contract, players just on a 1-year contract, players moving around all the time. I get that, but you want a player to be yours, don't you, really? And when you have too many loan players and you start to rely on them, then it's not really a sustainable system, in my opinion. But the Sunderland game happened. I wasn't too angry, actually. Some people were really angry about at the home leg, and I kind of get it, but you know, the playoffs is a lottery. At the end of the day, we didn't play very well, and that is down to us. You can't just blame the playoff lottery for that. But at the same time, Sunderland are a decent side. They were the form side of the division coming into the playoffs, and you know, they're a big football club as well. And at the end of the day, we've got to the playoffs. It's not been a bad season, but certainly room for improvement to be had for next year. Then we look at next year. For me, we've got to be targeting top 2. I don't think that's a particularly unrealistic target. If we can keep the likes of Barry Bannon, Lee Gregory, those kind of guys, I'd think about giving Luongo a contract as well, provided he doesn't want too much money. I don't quite rate Luongo as highly as other people do. I think his tackling is fantastic, but I think his passing and his dribbling, and he gives the ball away a lot and he fouls. I think there's a lot to be desired with Luongo, actually, in my opinion. There's no coincidence in the upturn of form since he came back fit, but I don't think that he's something that you can't get out of another player. Like, I think a player the level of Luongo you can get for League One, not easily, but relatively comfortably, I think. So I certainly wouldn't be relying on him to sign a new contract. How old is he now? 29. That's an ageing midfield. You've got 32-year-old Bannon, 29-year-old Luongo, 26-year-old Byers. A bit of an aging midfield. I'd maybe look to get a younger midfielder in, a younger centre-half in as well, and perhaps another striker, because I don't rate Berahino quite as highly as I'd like. Obviously, he's got that hat-trick against Cambridge, but his work ethic sometimes leaves a lot to be desired. The ability is there, but again, he's like a Kadeem Harris kind of thing, of a little bit too idle, which I also find that the problem of Mendes Lang as well. His defensive track back, or lack thereof, for the Sunderland goal at Hillsborough is the reason that we didn't win that game. So, you know, it is what it is. But I think, yeah, a little bit of a refreshing of the squad wouldn't go amiss. Certainly, new goalkeeper's going to be needed, judging by Bailey Peacock-Farrell's Instagram post. So he's going to go back to Burnley, probably never play for Burnley again, and be loaned out to like a championship club. That's what I'd assume would happen with him. Keep Lee Gregory fit. He can get 20 goals this season or next season. Keep the players like Barry Bannon fit. He can get, again, 10 goals, 10 assists next season. So yeah, I think there's positives to be had. With the right signings, I'd certainly think about trying to get a top 2 finish, but we can't throw away the first half of the season next year like we did this year. First half of the season was abysmal. Honestly, some of the worst football I'd seen, but I was here for Tony Pulis, so I don't quite think that it can win that award, judging by how awfully we played under Pulis and Monk and Lukaku, what was his name? How did you pronounce it? I've completely Luhukai, or however you pronounce his name. you know, some of the football under those kind of guys was awful, and it wasn't that bad, but we were losing the ball in such sloppy areas, and there were certainly times where I thought, wow, we are a League One club now, and a mid-table one at that. But credit to them, the second half of the season. But anyway, my original point is we can't lose the first half of the season like we did this year. If we play the second half next year for the full season, we'll go up, no doubt about it. I think we'd get like 90, 96, 97 points, which, I mean, providing there's no absolutely mental season, gets you promoted. I feel sorry for MK Dons, though, on 89 points and not promoted this season. Stock Twine's going to go to a Championship club as well, which is good for us because it means we don't have to play against him, and perhaps MK Dons become less of a threat. In terms of the teams coming down, I'd back Peterborough to go up out of all three. Maybe Derby, but that club's a bit of a shambles at the minute. I don't know what's happening. You have to be an accountant to work out what's happening there. And Barnsley, meh. Barnsley are okay. It depends who they get as a manager and depends on their recruitment. But overall, yeah, I'd target a top 2 finish next season. As signings come in and as contracts come in, I'll make more videos like this to sort of fill the time until July. Big thank you for the support on the channel for this season. It's been fantastic. Really pleased with the growth from the channel and the views that we've been getting. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers if we can at some point as well over the next however long I do this for. If we have another consistent season next year, then maybe we can reach that. But anyway, yeah, that's going to end this video here. Hope you enjoyed. Just a little bit of a review of this season and a little look into what could happen next season, but it's a bit unsure. We haven't even released the retain list yet. I'll probably do a video on that, actually. That'll be the next video I make. Have a look at the retain list, see where the club's going to head with that. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoy. Like and subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you later.